Doing the job is easy. Running a business is easy, but it is managing the humans that makes it so complicated. You have someone who is naturally vocal, and the company's value is challenge, and the behavior statement is I always speak my mind. There's going to be chaos. Hi, I'm Janet Lee, and I'm building better leaders with Kausern Hieu.
Hello. Hi, I'm Kausern Hieu, and welcome back to the Building Better Leaders with Kausern Hieu podcast, where I will have a guest companion and we will be tackling the letters that you sent to us. Most of the time, it's really challenging letters on leadership matters that you're facing at work. So, a little bit about our companion guest today, Janet Lee. I just want to be able to share very quickly how she has actually changed my trajectory, my life, and impacted me, impacted my self-worth actually. So I realized that every time when I'm trying to do any sort of transition, I will reach out to her. So the first time that I reached out to her was I wanted to get in the whole area of human resource after being in digital marketing for a long time. And I remember sitting with her in a Starbucks somewhere in a former office area, and we talked about it. And she said something quite interesting. She said, "Hey, based on your personality and all, why don't you try to take on accreditation for coaching?" And I was like, "Oh, okay. How does that work?" Then she explained to me and explained who I can reach out to, which I did, and I never regretted that move. In this case, so when I took my accreditation, and because of that, even though I may not necessarily need it, but because of that so-called that badge in this case, I think it gave me a lot of confidence to be able to reach out to clients or reach out to people to say that, hey, I'm accredited by ICF, International Coaching Federation. So I think just that conversation itself changed my life. But on top of that, she also will follow up with actions as well. So every time when she has, at the time, many years ago, because she knew I was going through this whole accreditation process, which requires me to put in a lot of hours of coaching before I get accredited. And she gave me the opportunity for some of her clients. She said, "Why not you just come on board and whatever time that you have to take on some of these clients," which I did. So again, I'm very indebted and grateful to you, Janet, for helping me to be where I am today. You're one of my building blocks. I really appreciate it. So for those who do not know you, can you please kindly introduce yourself?
Thanks, Kausern. Thanks for having me, and thanks for all your kind words. I must say it has been an absolute privilege and pleasure working with you all these years. Okay. Hi, everyone. I'm Janet Lee, and I'm the CEO and founder of 95%. We are a corporate culture consultancy. What this means is that I work with company CEOs to help them install and sustain a positive work culture where people feel that they can have job satisfaction at the end of the day. Meaning, I help companies turn their workplaces into joy places.
Very nice. Okay, thanks for the introduction. Let's jump straight into the letters itself, all right? So we received a letter. We're going to tackle some letters today. So the first letter is, let me try to read it out here. Dear Building Better Leaders, I recently got promoted to lead the team I was once part of, and I'm struggling with stepping into the air quotes accountability part of leadership. Deadlines are slipping, people are half showing up to meetings, and a few are delivering work that I know isn't their best. I've tried reminders, encouragement, even stepping in to help carry the load, but it's not changing much. Every time I think about being firmer or setting stricter expectations, I hesitate. I don't want to be the boss who breathes down people's necks or make work feel heavy. I remember how that kind of leadership affected me, and I don't want to repeat it. But now I'm wondering, am I trying so hard not to be a tyrant that I've left things slide too far? Now, how do you drive accountability without becoming someone your team dreads? So, Janet, what are your thoughts about this letter writer? What is this person you think is going through?
I Okay, from what I hear, it is not a uncommon situation. I think there are many people who go through that, especially when they used to work together really well as peers, and then suddenly one person is promoted, right? It can always be quite awkward. Um, what I'd like to share first is that there's a difference between accountability and authority. Authority
Okay.
means you have the power to make decisions, the power to decide and direct. And I looked up, it even says authority is the right to enforce obedience. Heavy, that's very heavy. But accountability just means that you are willing to answer for the decisions and the direction that you've made. And it's really a big distinction because being the person in authority kind of makes you feel like you have the power to command your former peers. But accountability is quite different. If I may share a little story, um,
Yeah.
I once worked with a group of 6 fresh graduates. They were classmates and they graduated top of their class. They were studying in Malaysia, then they went back to their hometown in Medan, Indonesia. And when they went back, they wanted to start up their agency. And they found an investor who was willing to fund them. So now the next step is who is going to be the CEO among the 6? And they were all top students. So they all shared about what were the different skills that they had, some better in design, some better in client management. And eventually, the one who was selected as the CEO, unanimously selected as the CEO, was the person who said that I know all of you are talented. I don't think I am any more talented than you. But what I'm willing to do is that I'm willing to be accountable for all your actions. I'm willing to be answerable to our investor, to our clients, and I will be the one to make the difficult decisions so that you can just focus on being creative and doing what you do best. So that is accountability. And when I heard this story, it also taught me something about what leadership is really all about. Doesn't mean you're the best. It just means that you're willing to answer for all the decisions that you make and for everything that your team does. So perhaps with this perspective, the person who wrote this letter can have a reframe about his or her position. What do you think?
So I think what probably what you said, I wonder whether or not the uh, letter writer fully understands what does accountability here means,
Mm,
because I think in the letter it kind of said that he had she or he had a terrible experience with a tyrant boss. I think he used the word tyrant.
mm,
So I'm not too sure what happened, but based on some of the stories I hear, sometimes accountability can be confused, like what you say, with authority. And I think also accountability here means that you take ownership of
mm,
the entire project. You take ownership of the process. You take ownership of the outcome as well. But sometimes, some top management or bosses, they mistake that if you are accountable for this particular project, for example, it means that you have to make it succeed regardless. That means if the project itself doesn't turn out to be how it is, then the boss will say you are accountable for it. You are in charge. I mean, because of that, you have failed me in this case, right? So I'm not too sure whether or not the letter writer gone through that kind of process before. So as a result, there could be some kind of trauma, and the letter writer do not want to so-called exert that kind of authority, knowing that we can't guarantee results, but we can kind of like do our best in this
mm,
case. So I think if you can reframe that again, like what you said, to fully, I think what we can help this letter writer to understand is accountability. Here is, of course, you need to take ownership. You need to take ownership of the results and the process as well, but not necessarily that even if, for example, the results doesn't turn out to be how it is, but yet you still take ownership to say that, okay, it didn't turn out to be how we imagined it to be. Let's debrief. Let's figure out what went right and what went wrong, and then we try to make good of it. I think I think that to me is how I would define accountability in terms of taking ownership, as well as everything in between about it. But of course, sometimes it doesn't mean that it will turn out to be how it is, but you still take the lead to say that, okay, I will figure out how to fix this and move forward with this. I think there's sometimes, I'm not too sure, again, like I said, this person could be going through some trauma before that this person is like, it's an absolute that you have to perform in this case. If it's not, then you are not accountable. What's your thoughts about it?
Yeah, it does sound like this person has had experience with a tyrant boss and
Mm,
does not want to do that. Perhaps another reframe is the concept of leadership for this letter writer. It it sounds like this person is trying to balance between delivering performance,
mm,
um, having that accountability and ownership to deliver performance, and trying to balance that with peers that or people who used to be his peers and friends. So because of the trauma of the tyrant, this person may have that perception or that aversion or fear that if I'm too strict, then my former peers won't like me anymore.
mm,
And that is something that uh, requires a reframing. Leadership is not about being liked. You, you will be liked and respected, but only when you're able to support your team members, lead your team members to bring out their best performance. If people feel that, or if people get it, that they can shine, they can do better, they can produce work that they are proud of under your leadership, then the respect and the liking will come automatically. It
mm,
may not be the kind of friend like as before. It may be a different kind of relationship that it will evolve into. And what they need to remember is that in order to do that, it's just setting in place a new context for the relationship, managing expectations between them, redefining that relationship. I think
mm.
that's where we need to start.
I like that. I like the word redefine the relationship. I think when I coach a lot of new leaders, they exactly like in this case of letter writer, that they were friends before, then they get promoted, then they practice this thing called friendship leadership, where it's like, because we're friends, you understand me, right? So I don't have to kind of like re-emphasize. So when I were to say certain things, you understand what I'm trying to say. So without, so I think the word that I really like is to redefine their relationship, because ultimately, also coupled with the fact that this person needs to also understand what it means to be a leader, right? So to be a leader is to be able to bring out the best in the other person, right? To
Yeah.
be able to set a goal together, and then in the process of it, to also bring out the best in the other person. And I think people would like to work for that as well, right? I mean, as if they want to feel useful, they want to be able to achieve something, right? And if you as the manager is able to help them to be able to do that, and redefine very clearly also that there's a friendship part, there's also the part which you wear the head of a manager to help this person. I think we're all adults, they will be able to understand. It is the lack of clarity where it's kind of like, oh, because we are friends before for so many years, you kind of understand where I'm coming from. I think that bit trips a lot of people if they
It
do not
does.
set the expectation upfront in this case, right? But it's also how you set the expectation. It's not kind of like, okay, now I'm the boss, right? So it's more of like, hey, I'm in this position here. That doesn't mean that I'm better than you. It's just that I've been given this position, and I would like to be able to set expectations
Mm,
on how we should move forward. And I also probably foresee that there will be some stress in our relationship and in our friendship in this case. So let's redefine, like you said, let's redefine this relationship so that our friendship don't get affected in this case, right? So we don't entangle friendship and work in this case if lines are drawn very clearly lah. So I think that needs to be upfront rather than assumed in this
correct.
case.
I totally agree with that. And this setting context is so important. Um, if this letter writer has already taken on the role, it's still not too late to set the context, even if it's like a couple of years into this new arrangement. It's never too late to set the context. And how they can do it is to do it on two levels. One is at the group level. So you're addressing the entire team to let the team know that under your leadership, this is your vision and ambition for the entire team. These are the kind of results that you want to produce. This is the kind of team culture or team environment that you want to establish, and get everyone to also have a opportunity to share what they would like to have in the team, so that together, while this new leader is showing the way, but also creating a space for everyone to contribute and co-create what kind of team culture they would like to have.
Mm.
Then the next thing is to set contacts with each individual. And this is
Mm.
where the new leader can speak to uh, the former friends, the former peers, to
Mm.
have a better understanding of what really is your ambition. Because as peers, you may not have a very serious discussion about that. It could be something that you casually mention over drinks, or sometimes you're actually just bonding over bitching sessions about the boss, but now you are the boss. So the
Yeah, yeah.
conversation becomes different, and the conversation about ambitions, career growth, career path, what they would like to achieve takes on a
Mm.
more serious note. And this can be incredibly powerful for the new leader to let his or her team know that I am serious about developing you.
Mm.
I'm no longer just a friend, a peer, but it is now my job and my intention to develop you to achieve the kind of career that you want. And I think
Mm.
this will go a long way to getting buy-in to his or her style of leadership.
Mm. Can I just add on a little bit on that bit about setting expectation from an individual level? I think it's not also about. I like the word where you say co-create, right? So it's
Mm.
not about just like, hey, my objective as a leader is to be able to grow you, and this is how I intend to grow you. I think that also will come across wrongly as well. It's kind of like very authoritative. It's more of
Yeah.
like okay, so I'm now in a position that I'm able to support you to get the resources that you need in order for you to move on to the next level or the ambition that you want to achieve. So I'm wondering, what would this ambition be and what kind of support that you need. So
Mm.
I think this kind of conversations are important rather than like, yes, the intent is good that I want to be able to support you, I want to be able to grow you, but it's how you say it also is very important.
Mm. Yeah, totally.
And I think let's go back one more thing before we move on with regards to the accountability, right? Word itself. I think what if I would ever were to so-called meet up with this person face to face in this case, I would probably ask them to rethink again, like what does accountability with kindness means like, because this person comes across as someone who I would assume someone is kind in this case and wants to get the job done, but yet don't want to hurt any sort of relationship along the way. So I think there is a sense of kindness in this case. So I think I would probably ask a question of like, dear letter writer, so I'm just wondering how would accountability with kindness look like to you? So it is not binary, it's not either or, but kind of like, okay, so based on the new understanding of accountability, now coupled with who you are as a person, being a kind person, how would that look like? And yet we still achieve the kind of results that we're looking at. So I think that kind of reframe, or at least to get this person to think again, that it is not just barking orders, but how do I get things done, but in wrapped up in a kind way, lah, in this
Mm.
case.
Yeah.
So, anything else you would like to be able to advise this letter writer before we move on to the next one?
Maybe just a little bit. One more thing to share, and this is largely inspired by what you said about kindness. what if I were to take it a bit further, right? Kindness, care, um, that human compassion or love, if you want to call it that.
Mm,
How I see it in leadership or how I see it linked to accountability is that if I care about you, I would want the best for you. And
mm,
therefore, I would hold you accountable to a high standard. But the high standard should be something that is a high standard in your books rather than mine. It's not that I'm imposing a standard on you, but I take time to understand what is the standard that you would like to hold yourself to. And then because I care for you, I will hold you to that standard. And when you are um, not living up to that standard, then I will let you know because I care. So I see this as taking
mm,
the kindness even further. Some people mistake kindness for, I don't want to say I don't want to hurt your feelings. That's not
mm,
kindness. That, to
mm.
me, that is actually self-serving because I
Yes.
am I am more worried about what you will think of me
Mm,
than making a stand for you so that you can rise to your own standards.
yes. Okay. Well, that's a very good point. So, okay, I think we have covered quite a fair bit. Just let me try to recap what are we going to
Mm,
be, what are action points that the letter writer can take based on what we said. So I've written down some notes. I think the first thing that the letter writer should consider about is to fully understand there is a difference between authority and accountability, and to kind of reframe the understanding of what accountability here means, right? So we talk about standards, we talk about ownership, we talk about processes and results and all. So I think that's very important. And then also just the point earlier on when you said that accountability here means that because I care enough for you, I would like you to be able to meet the standards, not my standards, but the standards that you set, right? So I will hold you accountable to that. Why? Because I think all of us have been through that before, where we say that we can't, but when we actually pass through it, we feel growth. We say, oh yeah, wow, what I experienced, right? So I think it's that understanding. It is not about meeting my standards. It's about helping you, right? But even though, let's say for example, just jumping in a little bit here, even though for example, the standards that you set may not necessarily as a manager we feel that it could be a very low bar. So we would like to also renegotiate some of these standards again to say, yeah, okay, I hear you. This is what you want. What do you think if you were to now you're looking at level 5, but how would level 7 look like? Is that possible? So then we work out a plan towards it, right? So once we agree on it, then we hold each other accountable for that results in this case, right? And we also talk about understanding, or we also would like to advise the letter writer to also redefine his or her relationship with the friends right now, to kind of like set the context. Setting the context here means like, okay, so there's a friend bit, there's also the so-called the work bit, work side of things, and there's two levels to it. One would be from a group level, what is the expectation, and the second one is from an individual level as well. So I think that needs to be upfront, so-called defined very clearly, so that the friendship is still being protected while work still get done in this case. Did I miss out any points that we should
no,
be
it's a very good
letting the letter
summary.
writer know? Yeah.
Good summary.
Okay. Cool. All right. So let's move on to the second letter. This letter is quite interesting. Is something which I have been struggling as well when I was a manager back then in an office. So it reads like this: Dear Building Better Leaders, I believe in being air quote real. I want my team to know I'm human, that I don't have all the answers, and that I also wrestle with doubt, imposter syndrome, and uncertainty at times. Recently, I opened up to my team during a town hall and shared that this year has been tough, both professionally and personally. I thought it would help them see that it's okay to be honest about struggles. But afterwards, someone mentioned, with good intentions, that I should be careful because I quote here, people need to believe you've got things under control. That hit me hard. I thought I was being relatable. Now I'm wondering if I'm accidentally made people question my leadership. So the question here is, where's the line between being vulnerable and being too exposed? How can I be transparent without shaking their confidence in me? Yeah, so this is kind of like a new age conversation. I don't remember back then, when I was starting up, this whole thing about vulnerability ever did come up before. I think it's something where now people say that, oh, it's good for you to show your vulnerability because it comes across as human in this case. But then people are starting to push back as well because they say, hey, I think you're showing too much realness in this case, right? So I think, where's that line? How much to show without coming across as incompetent, and how much not to show? So let's talk about it.
Okay.
Where do we start with this letter writer?
So this is really interesting, and I must say I totally understand. Um, I like to practice being very real with my people as well, and I think it's important for leaders to be real, honest, authentic. When we try to project a false front, false confidence, people know that we are hiding something, but they don't know what we are hiding. They just get the sense that we are hiding something or our guard is up. There's something that we're not revealing, and that gets them to be very. It can get them to be worried, or it just provides fuel for speculation and gossip. And this is something that has been even more apparent after the pandemic, where people
Oh.
are a lot more cautious and a lot more wary about what's happening in the workplace. The future is uncertain, what's going on. So, one of the qualities, like you said, a new age thing, and this is something that came out from the pandemic, that people want their leaders to be open and honest with them. But as a leader, when you are experiencing all that self-doubt, imposter syndrome, the uncertainty, um, it is a challenge how much you actually reveal. Now, what how I deal with it is that I go back to what makes a leader in the first place. A leader
Right.
is someone that people follow. If we want to go back to, let's say, the beginning of time, caveman days,
Okay.
people will follow the person who knows where's the best hunting ground, where do I find the best buffalo, where do I find shelter, clean water. The leader is typically traditionally known as someone who can show the way. May not be the best hunter, but knows how to get to the best hunting ground. So, as a leader, when we open up to reveal our true self, we if we reveal all the mess, all the inner mess that is there, ah, people are going to lose faith in us. So the remark that was made to this letter writer, I think there is some truth to that. That people need to believe you've got things under control. I think there's some truth to that. So what can the leader do? You want to be open, but at the same time, you don't want to reveal the mess that you are inside, all the fears and the doubts. What we do as leaders, this is the challenge as well as the joy of being a leader, is that we need to work on ourselves. Leaders need to have that self mastery, that self awareness, that you are always handling your own uncertainty and doubts. That's what I do. I find that I need to get myself to be in a place of certainty. While I may not have all the answers, I need to know how to get the answers. Any emotional issues that I am going through, I know that I need to handle it quickly so that I can still be open to my team without unloading all my mess onto them. So it's not a so you want to open and let people know that, okay, I am going through all this. Don't worry, I'm handling it. So as long as people get a sense that you're still able to control it, then they won't worry. They just need to know that you've got a handle on it, you've got a grip on it, or at least you're aware and you're not just being delusional about it.
What you said suddenly just gave me this picture of I think a leader needs to, like you said, go back to understanding of a leader, right? So I think one part of it is really important to understand that leadership don't exist in a vacuum. So it's about having connection and having that relationship with the people that you bring along as well. So I think it's very important to understand that as a leader, you are responsible for the growth of the people that you bring along. So what happens is that if you are just oversharing kind of like what you are going through without the thought of empowering them, like this information is not helpful for them in this case, right? Uh, then I think then this person, the leader, could be just playing the victim, kind of say that, oh, I can't achieve this because I'm in a mess right now. I don't know where we're going, things like this, right?
Yeah, no one wants a leader like that.
Yeah. So I think that is where I think Brene Brown, the vulnerability go-to person, right? She said that vulnerability minus boundaries is not vulnerability; it's oversharing, right? So it's not, there needs to be a boundary, right? So a boundary here, what it means is that it is not coming across as like, look, I'm a mess right now, so I'm useless to you. No, I don't think that is helpful, right,
Not at all.
for the people. Instead, like what you said, to be able to, so there's two parts to it. Number one, to acknowledge that yes, I am going through some kind of mess in this case, but the second part is important to be able to say that, but this is what I'm going to do about it,
Mm,
right?
yes.
So there's two parts to it. So one is like, for example, it can be what a victim would sound like would be like, you know what, I don't know what we're doing, it feels like we're drowning, so let's see how lah tomorrow, that kind of thing. So that yeah, even though whatever the person is feeling is that way, right? They're drowning and so on. I think that is where it's not helpful, the information. I think like you said, the person needs to have a lot of self-awareness to say, okay, whatever that I say needs to come across as empowering. So how would I reword that, but yet I still feel authentic? I still feel that it's still me in this case. So this person can say something like in the town hall, like what we're facing is hard, is difficult, and but here's what I'm learning on how we can move forward. These are some of my thoughts. Let's work together towards it. So I think there's always the second part to say this is what we're going to do about it.
Yes,
This is what we're thinking about it, right? And just not leave it as, look, I'm in a mess, that kind of thing, right?
absolutely.
I've done this a few times before, where sometimes I don't even have the answers for it, and but I know that if I were to continue to be in that environment or in that room, it won't be helpful. So what I would usually say to the team back then is to say that I am actually not in a good headspace at this point in time. Something happened in the morning, and would you allow me to just give me some space, and I will get back to you by end of the day or by tomorrow on how we can move forward on this. Is that all right with you? So then at least the people know that yes, I'm not, all that well in this case, but there is always the next action in this case, right? So I think that is something which will be able to balance well of when is not oversharing or too much sharing, or when you come across as serious in this case, for this letter writer. So that is kind of like where we probably go with this lah, you know. I would like to also, is there anything to add on with regards to this?
Um, not very much. Just a few,
Yep.
maybe just a few things. I really love the way that you would say it to your team. Just to share a few other ways of saying that there have been times we don't know where to go. Every door seems closed, and everywhere we look, it looks like there are obstacles, and everyone is looking at me and saying that. So what now? What do we do now? And when I don't have the answers, what I will tell them is that, okay, I hear you, I acknowledge you're right, this is the situation that we are in. So even acknowledging that rather than brushing it aside can make a difference to the team, where they
Mm,
realize that, okay, my leader is not delusional, my leader acknowledges the ugly truth.
mm,
Then the next step is to let them know that, okay, so what am I going to do about it? And I always say that, okay, I don't have all the answers, but let me talk to a few people. Let me reach out to my mentors, and I'll speak to the people who are more business savvy, or um, who may have certain insights, different insights, people that I can learn from, people that I look up to and respect as mentors, invite them out for a coffee, get different perspectives, and then I'll have something better to come back to the team.
mm.
Last case, I'll tell them that, okay, guys, I hear you. I'm also feeling the worries and uncertainties. Give me some time. Let me meditate on it, and I'll come back to you with a clearer mind.
Mm, mm.
Mm,
Let's say if we were to flip it around
mm,
to, let's say if we are the manager right now and we have a new joiner who just joined us, and this new joiner is, this person speaks his mind or her mind and comes across as real, as the word
mm,
real, right? To say, oh, this is what I'm going through, I can't deliver this because my I need to take my parents to chemo, my mom to chemo, and I mean, yes, all these things, life,
yeah, yeah.
happens, right? How would you view someone like that, in this case, right? Someone who just joined us, but have all these, life issues coming up, right?
Mm,
And how do we deal with it, right? So I just want to it kind of like ties back to this whole thing as well. I think it's got to do with how what I call it, how much you share also has got to do with how new you are to the organization to a certain extent. What it means is that, for example, if someone who hasn't proven themselves from a competent perspective, right? So they just joined, and then before they can even deliver anything, they have all these life challenges that goes through. I'm not denying the fact that this person has go through all these things, but there would also be a time where I'll be thinking like this comes across as a little bit like an excuse in this case, because if I were to if it's going to be another person in this case, this person has worked for me for, I don't know, 2 3 years, has proven record, and when the person say that, hey, I am going through this, and with the family and all and so on, I can understand, right? So I think that's the bit which, in this case, the letter writer also needs to be able to be to kind of know where, like is if this person is new to the organization, then there needs to be this person needs to be able to prove his or her competency or capability first to a certain extent before sharing all the things that the person is actually going through in this case, all the self-doubts and imposter syndrome and so on. Any thoughts about that in terms of, like,
mm.
establishing a baseline capability first?
Yeah, we've actually experienced this. So what you're saying is like kisah benar. Um, what what we do is that I would still rather that person be open and share, even if it is oversharing, so that as the leader, I know what I'm dealing with,
Hmm.
regardless of whether that person has proven his or her capability or not. I would like to know what that person is going through, what they are
Okay.
grappling with. There must be some reason why I hired that person, which
Right.
means there is some expectation of capability already. And when this person opens up, then what we would do is to assess the situation and have a very honest discussion with that person about what can you do? What, with all that is going on in your life, is this the right time for you to actually have this job? Maybe that person needs to take a sabbatical and handle life
Hmm.
first before coming into work. If that person feels that, yes, I can, or I really do need this job, then we would work out a system with this person that, okay, so what can we count on you for? What can you deliver? And how can we support you to deliver that? And we would then negotiate the deliverables, maybe break it down into smaller packages so that that person can experience that, okay, it's not overwhelming, I'm able to do this.
Hmm.
And sometimes this can go a long way, providing this kind of support can really go a long way to help
Agree.
that person feel more confident and more empowered.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So let's recap how we what are some of the pointers that the letter writer can consider moving forward with this situation. I think number one is to first of all acknowledge the that being human is okay because your people want to know that you're human too and they want to be able to relate to it. So I think that is the first step, and not to kind of say don't share, but
Mm.
yes, you can share that, right? But it needs to also couple with the second part to it, which is to say that yes, this is what I'm going through, but moving forward, these are the steps that we are going to be taking with regards to the business needs in this case, right? Like you said, to be able to acknowledge that yes, this is what we're going through, this is what I'm going through as well. This is some of the thoughts that I have. I'm not very clear entirely, but to get clarity, this is what I will do. So there's always a two parts to it, and just not so-called telling how you're going, what you're going through, and then without the second part. Because if you're doing that, it's not empowering to the team. You're just playing the victim. And the and also we talk about capabilities as well. I think if you do have any juniors or anyone, they shouldn't abuse the trust with the company to replace so-called things that they cannot deliver with what they're going through, right? So I think it's important to still raise it up to the manager, in this case, to say, this is what I'm going through, and would want to be able to say, then let's work out something that is still doable for me based on my current situation. And it shouldn't be like, oh, because I'm going through this, hence I cannot deliver on my work. I think especially when you're very new in an organization, I think that's really important because you were hired for a reason. You're hired to deliver on certain things. But of course, we understand that life gets in the way. So, but it's able to figure out what will be the deliverable in this case. So
May
to
I
have
add
that kind of
on a little
conversation.
bit more?
Yeah, go ahead, go ahead.
So how we do it is that we set very small milestones, but these milestones are indicators of whether that person is just using it as an excuse or whether this person is really putting in the effort to try. And these small milestones could be even things as simple as what can you get done in the next half a day, or what can you get done in the next 2 hours. So it is just really very small, and it helps that person stay on track. It gives them something that, so that they can focus on something while the whole mess of their life is going on.
Understand.
And sometimes it can be as simple as, if you can't do it, let us know. So as long as that person is checking in and not ghosting us, then we know that, okay, this person is still empowered. But when this person ghosts us, then we know that, okay, maybe this person is not ready, is not in the right frame of mind for a full-time job. Maybe this person needs to take care of himself or herself first before getting a job.
Right.
So the small
Okay.
indicators, the small milestones help to let the leader know whether this person is just using it as an excuse or a crutch, or whether that person is really trying their best.
Okay. I think it's important to also the not to wait sometimes for, not like how we usually say that if you've got any challenges and so on, just look for us. Most of the time they won't look for us for many reasons. Maybe they don't want to come across as incompetent, or they don't want to come across as they don't have all the answers. I think this is where the manager sometimes need to be able to be proactive enough to kind of just reach out anyway. Just say that, hey, we talked about this and you don't seem to be able to deliver this. What's going on? Understand that you're trying to balance things at home, Yeah, so I think it's to be able to work all these things out, and ultimately is to serve the business goals as well as also an opportunity for the person to grow as well in this case. Okay, so let's move on to letter three. This is a very interesting letter. Okay, I'm jumping ahead. Let me read. Dear Building But Leaders, I've worked with American and Western multinationals since I graduated. So recently I joined a locally grown company that's still run by founding family, now in the third generation. I was hired as a senior manager to challenge ideas and give honest feedback, even upwards. I'm also expected to encourage my team to do the same. However, there's a strong emphasis on maintaining harmony, meaning not rocking the boat in my current workplace, and an underlying culture that values being agreeable, respectful, not challenging authority. As an Asian, I understand this. Now, I feel stuck between two value systems, Eastern versus Western. The team I inherited tends to say yes in meetings and avoid tough conversations. I sometimes feel like I'm leading in a vacuum. And when I do try to encourage more honest and dialogue to all accountability, I worry I come across as disrespectful or too Western. Now, how can I do my job well and lead authentically when the workplace culture I come from, one that values candor and transparency, seems to clash with this one, which prizes respect, hierarchy, to a certain aspect, saving face? Yeah, so where do we begin? This is quite interesting. Uh, yeah, any thoughts?
Yeah, I actually experience this a lot in my work as a culture consultant,
Okay.
especially with a lot of the SMEs where today it is the second or even the third generation who's taking over the business. And they've been, unlike the founding fathers, these younger generations probably been educated overseas, so they come back with a lot of Western values. And then there's that clash. Um, so maybe the first thing where we can start off is instead of looking at is it Eastern or is it Western, that puts it into the realm where you're talking about something that's really very deep rooted, the values that are very deep rooted, and people are gonna resist and fight with all their might against the threat of am I losing my roots, my values that my cultural roots, where I come from, and that just takes it into an area that is not going to be productive. What I advise my clients is to look at what is the culture that you currently have and what is the culture that you would like to shift it to. So how do we go from here to there? And no culture would be completely bad, and also no culture would be entirely good. So it is about looking at, in the current culture, what are some strengths that we have that we can build upon, and what are some new values that we want to add in so that we can create the shift that we want to have from being very quiet, very traditional, passive, yes man, to something that's more innovative, more driven. So, what are the things that we need to shift? How's that for a
Okay.
starting point?
Okay. Uh, I don't have much experience in this line, but if I were to so-called coach this person,
Mm,
I would probably ask the question of like, I think it's very similar to what you said. I mean, what is the desired outcome
mm,
that we want, right? That's point B, and then also to acknowledge what is point A in this case. But I will challenge the person to kind of like define or kind of redefine their understanding, right? Because this person comes across, this letter writer comes across as Eastern versus Western,
mm,
right? It's almost like it is binary,
mm.
like it's either this or this,
Yeah,
right or wrong, east or west, this or that. In this case, I would probably number one, first of all, acknowledge that it is a tough situation, especially if all you know. I think the letter writer says that since this person has graduated, has been working in American and Western companies, right? Which they value candor and directness in this case. So I would acknowledge that this is a real tension for sure.
Mm.
But the second thing is also to re-establish again the reason why this person is hired. I think it mentioned in the letter that they were hired to challenge and give honest feedback. So to understand that that is the reason why they are there,
Mm.
right? And not to doubt about it. I think the question is just more of how to say it or how to have that balance without coming across as, like you said, disrupting something which is rooted for a long time, right?
Mm.
I would also ask this person, letter writer, as well. So, what if we can do both, right? How would that look like, right? So instead of saying this or that, but let's say you can do both, right? Can you imagine how would it sound like? How would it look like? So I would kind of like coach the person from there onwards in this case, and to also acknowledge that it's actually a privilege to be a very different kind of leader because not many people can actually kind of like straddle between, i.e., in this case, like both worlds in this, right? But if this person is able to do that, then this person will come across as will grow new skills in this case, or will build new skills, right? So yeah, I was probably start with that, asking this person that let's say you can do both. How would that sound like? How would that look like? And then I'll just take it from there.
What I would also do, adding on to that, is to lead a discussion on the definition of the values that has been brought up. So respect. Respect means different things to different people. Not only different
Mm,
culture, but different generations. For the boomers, respect means don't question, don't ask.
yeah.
But for the millennials, the Gen Ys and Gen Zs, respect means I want to understand your thought process. I want to know how you got there. So therefore, I will ask. So it's very different. And the best way to get alignment is to actually have a clear definition of what it would look like in this company. So values like respect, like challenging ideas, like honest
Mm,
feedback. How do you want people to behave? You come up with a list of behavior statements.
mm,
I had an interesting experience with a group of SME leaders last week. It was just last week. I was giving a talk on how do you operationalize your core values. And one of them had the core value of challenge. And the behavior statement that this leader wrote was, um, I speak my mind. I always speak my mind. So that for me raised certain alarm bells because if
mm,
you have someone who is naturally vocal and the company's value is challenge and the behavior statement is I always speak my mind, there's going to be chaos. This
right.
person is going to think that, okay, I have license to shoot my mouth. So you actually need to moderate that and reword the behavior statement to say that I offer my opinions with respect or I disagree with respect. I listen to understand and I put forward a neutral point of view. So we need to moderate it and frame it in a way that is productive. And I think that this would help this letter writer to at least get started, work together with the team um, to define and to co-create what do the values actually mean, how do we want to align our behaviors so that while we while we still respect our traditional strengths, we are able to be more innovative, more creative, more agile, and move into the future that way.
Mm, mm, okay. Um, I think that's great. That's the step number one, right? To be
Mm.
able to have clarity in terms of values. How about in those cases where there isn't any values to start off with? It's just kind of like a people have been practicing that unsaid stuff.
Mm.
So, what are your thoughts on that? Where do we even start with that? If there isn't like a an on the board to say challenge, there's no such thing, but
Mm.
there's this thing around the room. So, what do you do with that?
Mm. Every company would have a set of values. It's whether it is spoken or unspoken. You will, whether it is deliberately planned or not, or by default, you will still have some kind of values. So maybe what this letter writer can do, or leaders who don't have values, is to spend some time with your management team, the leaders of the company, to try to call out what are the strengths, the inherent strengths in this company. If it is set up by uh, a, a boomer founding father, chances are the values would be hard work, commitment, loyalty, uh, never cutting corners, integrity. This could be the bedrock of what has made that company good. So, how would you build on that, and what would you like to add in to take the company into the future?
Okay, got you.
And
Um, to as you were saying that, something triggered me as well. To so of course, sometimes when we do this, we would take some time, right?
mm,
To define what is the culture in this case, and the so-called the behavioral statements that comes along with it. Sometimes it may take time but that's important from a corporate standpoint. So everyone's very clear of what it is, right? But what can this person do almost immediately is to be able to understand, to change the approach on leading with questions rather than leading with statements in this case, right? So what I mean by that is that to learn how to ask, not like candor here sometimes may come across as a bit like, oh, I don't agree with you, right?
mm,
Instead of that, to reframe that, to kind of say that I hear where you're coming from. I wonder if there's another way of doing this.
mm,
So this kind of questions it still retains the kind of respect for
mm,
the other person, but yet you're also challenging them to rethink again, of their approach. So it can also sound something like, if you were in my shoes, how would you redo this, or how would you do this, instead of I don't agree with you,
mm,
right? So I think that is something which can come across as too rude in this case. I think it's important to be able to still have that kind of candor, that directness in this case, but yet it is wrapped up in language
mm.
which the the company can understand, right? In this case, or how should I say it? To be direct, but yet wrapped up in a very indirect sort of language. You know what I'm trying to say. So,
Tactful
so
and respectful.
yes,
Yeah,
tactful, respectful.
yeah,
Yes, that's the word. Yeah.
yeah. This is actually a skill. So for any company that wants to make this kind of a transition, we need to be mindful that it's not just about telling people that, okay, you used to do A, now I want you to do B. But what is the skill that you need to empower you to do B in a way that is productive and appropriate for the company? So in this case, it could be, if you want people to challenge ideas, maybe you need to equip people with critical thinking skills, communication skills. How do you, or coaching skills? How do you phrase statements? How do you phrase your disagreements? If you want your people to actually have more ideas and challenge status quo, maybe you need to even give them like debating skills, problem solving skills. And how you can do it is gradually, step by step, in small baby steps. Maybe just start off with once a week, 15 minutes after your work in progress meeting. All right, guys, let's review something radical, and let's see who can ask questions about this radical idea. And that gradually builds the skill and builds people's confidence to ask questions in a way that is appropriate for the company. It's a skill and it can be learned.
Right, right. That also got me thinking. Um, I think it was, I can't remember what's the theory, but in essence, in order to change the entire company, I think we always have this thought about, like, we run it like a marketing campaign, which means like this determine what are the direction, what are the values, what are the vision and so on. Then we like boom, let's get everybody. They put them into a weekend and then try to figure things out, right, together and so on. I think yes, from an awareness standpoint, because me coming from a marketing background, yes, from an awareness standpoint, is how it would look like in this case. But to see actual real transformation itself, it starts off with a very small group of people,
Mm-hmm.
those who buy in this case, right? Then I think it's very important then to be able to identify who are these so-called team who is practicing this, who bites the idea of what you're trying to preach in this case, or what where you want to go in this case, and then because from then onwards, just like anything else, the others will then follow this group of people, right? This small group of people, instead of like having like a. I mean, I'm not saying that we shouldn't. I think it's good for awareness, but to see the actual transformation itself is to actually kind of like band in a group of people, or is there a word for it from a culture standpoint, like a culture cheerleader, in this case, like a group of people, not very big, let's say in a group of let's say the whole company is 200 people. We're talking about like 5-10 people to start up with, right? So from then onwards, then it kind of like they will model how it looks like, then people will kind of like follow. Yeah, I think, not too sure what's your thoughts on that approach.
In my experience, I have come across companies who have done this. The challenge is that these people are usually the bright sparks in the company, and when they are asked to be the culture champions, they will go all out. However, their bosses are going to feel left out. Their bosses are going to sometimes even feel resentful and may block their efforts. So, what we would recommend is that whether you like it or not, the most effective way is to cascade it from top down. It has to start with the CEO, the senior management modeling it. Then you get the next level of leaders, the next level of leaders, because they are the ones who have authority. So it may not be the easiest thing to get their buy in, but it is worth it because when they make the shift, it will automatically trickle down to the rest of their teams, rest of their department.
Mm.
So equip
Mm.
them, equip the leaders with the skills first. Then they won't feel that they are left
Okay,
out or left behind.
got it. So as you're saying that, I am reminded of this company which I was exposed to many many years ago, uh, which it's quite similar actually. Come think about it, it's been around for a long time, and now it's the third generation or fourth generation running it. Nevertheless, so they are pretty aggressive. They want to grow internationally. And so they hired some very big guns from the industry, like the who and who of marketing and who and who of operations and so on, to join them to have this transformation. Pay them a lot of money and all, but within 6 months or a year, all these people left. Reason being because the even though it is now currently run by the fourth generation in this case, but yet the founding father, not founding fathers, but at least the third generation or even second generation is still there, right? The shadow is still there. They still come to board meetings and all, right? And like what you said just now, I mean, it's like yeah, I mean the new generation wants to make change, but yet there are also some old guards who is not willing to take that risk, right? To change, because all this while is working. Why why do it now? So I think there's a lot of frustration with this group of new hires. So as a result of that, they said like, yeah, okay. I mean, yeah, I can't fully do my work here when there is this kind of culture, right? Which I have to tiptoe around. So so I think, yeah, thanks for sharing that, because I am reminded that it needs to start from the top now in this case, and not just a good idea from HR or good idea from the fourth generation in this case.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, I think my last thing I would probably want to be able to mention to this letter writer is that let's not be distracted also to a certain extent. What does the business need? Right? That this person is being hired to be able to deliver on the business in this case. And I think those are business priorities. And not to be too flustered and distracted with like, oh, should I do the Eastern way or the Western way in this case, but to be able to sometimes talk to the stakeholders and talk to the people who are responsible to say that, okay, look, we need to deliver on this business result by a certain X date in this case, right? I acknowledge the elephant in the room. You probably will approach it very differently, and I will approach it very differently. And as we are trying to sort out the way we work, we still have to deliver on this piece, right? On this business result in this case. So let's co-create, let's collaborate. What can we do, right? I think that is that will help, right? Rather than like, should I, wrap my candle with indirect with tech and so on. Yes, as we will try to work on that. But if you were to be too overly distracted with this, we don't get the job done, right? The business part of things. I would probably use the business as a reason to work out our differences as well. To say that, hey, let's put this piece of challenge on the table. I acknowledge where you're coming from, the way you do it, this is how I do it. But ultimately, we have to deliver on this piece, right? So let's figure out what should we do about it. So I think that gives a lot of clarity, objectivity. We still have to agree to disagree, whatever, but ultimately we have to deliver on this business priority. This is probably what I will also advise this letter writer to do as well.
That collaborative effort is really going to go a long way to get people to have ownership, where they don't feel that change is being imposed, but they are co-creating the future of the company together.
Okay. So what are we telling the letter writer? Okay, you gotta help me out in this. So this is what I picked up, right? So step one is to kind of like understand that sometimes there are unspoken or even spoken values, right? To be able to drive the clarity of this value. So this letter writer can kind of like have conversations with the higher ups to kind of say that, look, I think it's important that there needs to be some kind of alignment with the company. So when we say that, for example, we are a challenger, so what does that really mean from a behavioral standpoint, right? So to be able to articulate and to be able to document this, very important to say that this is what are the 3 or 4 values that we stand for, and these are the behavioral statements that accompanies it. But we don't even stop there as well. We also kind of get the letter writer to also say it's also important then to be able to create the step by step on how to show up, on how to behave this way, and not just say behave this way. But what does it even mean, right? So to be able to have to take baby steps, to be very gradual in saying that now if you want to be a challenger in this case, what does that mean? So which means then you can, what kind of new skills is needed? So like you said, is it equipping them with debate skills? Is it equipping them with critical thinking? And also that they can understand, they can try it out in bite-sized baby steps. So then they will start to see that change, and they start to see results. And then when there's results, then results beget results. In this case, it's all the small steps in this way. And that's what I captured actually. And of course, the last thing I think I mentioned just now as well is to, as all these things take time, I think it's also very important that the letter writer, let's not be distracted with all these things. As yes, you have to deal with this, but I think it's also important that the writer also needs to be able to deliver on the results, right? Then to have conversations with the different stakeholders to say, to acknowledge, yes, there could be some differences in how we approach this, but we still have to deliver on this business priority or this business direction anyway. So how should we approach this? But to actually take that as an opportunity to work on differences actually, as I think about it. So it's not just let's sit and talk about differences, but more of like, let's use this as a reason to work on our differences. So I think this is also a very good opportunity as well. I think all in all, I think the letter writer shouldn't be looking things at very binary, east or west. but should be the bridge instead to these two worlds. And if they can bridge this, then I think this letter writer will be a very different kind of leader, which is going to be very valuable to be able to be able to straddle this so-called IE two worlds. Anything to add on, Janet?
How I would sum it up is 3 C's. The
Okay.
first C is clarity. Without clarity, you cannot get alignment. So it's important to have clarity of
Agree.
what is it that you want to have. The second C is co-creation. Discuss that together with the team so that you are co-creating something together to take the company forward into the future. The third C is competence. Make sure that your
Wow.
people have the right skills to be able to deliver. 3 C's.
Okay. Clarity, co-creation, and
Competence.
competence. Very good. Thanks for bringing us home. Okay, so before we come to a close for this recording, this session, I'm just wondering, throughout the last almost an hour actually of us talking, were there any aha moments for you? Were there any takeaways for you which you thought that was pretty interesting?
I think what really hit me as I'm doing this is that for young leaders who are stepping into that leadership role, these are all issues that are so real, and I think many leaders go through it. I certainly went through it. And what really struck me was that I wish I had someone to guide me all those years ago when I was first, having to deal with all these issues. Dealing with people is not easy. Doing the job is easy. Running a business is easy, but it is managing the humans that makes it so complicated. So as we're going through all this, it's taking me back memory lane of when I was a new leader and all these challenges that were faced. I'm really glad that we have this opportunity to share and to guide this new breed of leaders.
Thank you. Thanks for doing this with me. Really appreciate it. Your perspective really does add a lot of new perspective. Your perspective definitely adds a lot of color and also relevance and the right words to use as well. Sometimes I kind of like don't have the right words for it. I really appreciate that. So, dear listeners, we hope you enjoyed this episode. If you have stayed until this point, thank you. You've come this far. I appreciate it that you listen all the way. We want to thank you for the bottom of our hearts. So subscribe, rate, and leave us a review or comment because every of this action will get this episode to go much further to those who need to hear this. So we will also leave a email below for you to write to us any challenges that you're currently going through from a leadership standpoint, and we will reach out to you if it really resonates. So thanks for that. So with that, we have come to a close, and we will see you in the next episode. Thank you.
Building Better Leaders with Kausern Hieu podcast is the advice column for leaders today. Produced and edited by me, Susan Yong. Got a leadership challenge at work? Send us a letter today. More information in the description box.